Hope of the world isn't out to action. It's all left up to us to change its presence generations.
Hey guys, what is going on? Jack from Superstring and Lacrosse here. Today we review the brand new Adidas Lacrosse products. So I was really fortunate a couple months back to receive 3 heads after getting in contact with Adidas Lacrosse. It's part of their whole new attempt to relaunch the Adidas Lacrosse brand and really send some new products into the market that they've really refined and reformed. So the 3 they sent me, one was the EQT Arrest. Their new line of heads they're launching is the EQT line. So this is the EQT Arrest. This is the EQT Enrage, which is one of their field heads. And then last but not least, this is the EQT Bawse. I'm going to start out talking about an overview of Adidas and them relaunching their products. Then I'm going to move into an overview of the heads. Then I'm going to test them for a while. And then after extensive testing, I'm going to be coming back and giving you guys my thoughts on the Adidas products. So Adidas has come back launching a bunch of new heads, both men's and women's, as well as new shafts, new cleats, new gloves, and a lot of other cool accessories. Now for men's lacrosse, they have 6 heads up on their website, as well as I think 2 heads for women's lacrosse, but today we're going to be focused on the men's heads. So they have the 3 heads I already mentioned, plus a defensive head as well as another field head that they offer. But let's start off with overviews talking about this new approach by Adidas to kind of get back to the lacrosse world. In my opinion, is fantastic, because it's awesome to see a huge company like Adidas supporting a sport like lacrosse. That can only bring good things, good innovation, overall a lot of benefits to the lacrosse community. So first up, let's start talking about the Bawse. So one of their athletes or their newest sponsors is Miles Jones, and the head that Miles Jones actually uses is the Adidas Bawse with Hero Mesh 2.0 right now. So Miles Jones has been an outspoken advocate for the Bawse as well as the Adidas line. You've seen him on Instagram, you've seen him on their Instagram page, all over Instagram repping Adidas now. What you notice right away is that it's a very aggressive face shape that comes forward. So rather than most lacrosses nowadays, which kind of lay horizontally or even dip back like you saw the Epic Hawk do, this Adidas Bawse actually does the opposite. It comes up and then pushes forward. So it's a really aggressive offset. So this offset comes forward, and what that's going to do is a couple things. First of all, it's going to give you a lot quicker release. It's going to give you a little bit more width if you don't string it properly. So let's look at some of the key features of the Adidas Bawse. First of all, it has an extremely aggressive offset where it comes forward rather than laying vertical or horizontal like most heads do nowadays. You can see here it comes, dips, the lowest point is right where they have the pocket it's going to sit, and then it comes back up. So right at that lowest point is where they want the pocket to be. They recommend a high pocket, and this head is recommended for midfielders who go 2-way. So don't expect this to be like a face-off head. It is a fairly stiff head that's going to last a lot of seasons. I can already tell it's extremely durable. If you look at some of the struts, they have 1, 2, 3, and like this little strut up here. And the 3 struts are all coming from down up, curving the same way that the offset curves, which is something interesting, because their other head, which we'll look at in a second, does the exact opposite. It curves away from the face shape. But that's why it's focused for a higher pocket. You can tell that the researchers at Adidas really knew their stuff in the way they position the rails, because that's typically the way you do it if you want a higher pocket, because that's where you're expecting the most of the stress to be. The stress is going to be right here when the ball is constantly getting hit here when you're catching and throwing, and that's why they have the rails like such, because they're focusing it towards a higher pocket. So that's well done by Adidas. This head retails for $100. You can pick it up on their website. I know some people have been complaining about the price, but from what I've noticed, Adidas has actually come back into the market, not just throwing their products at people and expecting them to buy it, but actually taking a lot of time to do a lot of research into heads, into equipment for lacrosse, into making a really good product. After a quick overview, the head looks really promising. Some of the other areas to focus on are the top string holes. If you notice, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 top string holes, and it's different than most heads because they have a top string hole in the center, so that you can pull that mesh even tighter if you decide to use the middle hole. The way the channels are built in the back, they have little ridges here to protect the strings from the fray of getting comps to ground balls, and that's just one really easy way to notice how the manufacturers at Adidas really made sure to focus on every single detail when they were looking at this head. There are 15 sidewall holes on each side, more than enough to get whatever pocket you're looking for. I had no problem stringing it up, And in terms of stringability, they designed it, like I said, to be a higher pocket, and when stringing it up, it really naturally just sat right here, and it works perfectly with the face shape, and I have a feeling that this thing is going to be awesome playing with on the field, so I'm looking forward to doing that. One last thing to note about the Bawse is the throat. So they have a lot of distance between the throat and where the shaft is going to be. It's not a gradual curve, rather pretty extreme. While most heads will gradually curve into the throat, they decided to just have it kind of end right here and then the throat just begin. The next head we're going to talk about is geared towards attackmen slash like offensive middies, and it is called the EQT Enrage. So this head from the side, it looks very similar to an optic. If you just looked at this from the side in terms of the strut and what the offset is, it looks very similar to an optic. And that's because they focus on a lot of the same things that the optic did here. So one of the things they harp on is the narrow face shape for maximum ball protection and security when you're playing. The way they lay out the struts, it's meant more for a mid-low pocket, and that's just really what's going to work best. You can tell it's made more for an attackman. One of the things they focus on the struts is the reason they laid it out like this is because they want maximum strength when picking up ground balls. So just pushing in, it's very hard to get the head to compact on itself, and that is because the way the rails are laid out on the side to make sure that ground balls are a breeze. While the Bawse has specific cutouts on the top for taking out weight as well as protecting the strings, the Enrage is more of what you'll see from a typical lacrosse head in terms of the top string. Just very simple, 6 holes. You could fit 3 strings in them, so you could do a 9-diamond triangle top, a double 9-diamond triangle top, just like the Enrage, but it doesn't have the extra top string hole in the center. Aesthetically, I think the Enrage and the Bawse both look really cool. The Bawse, you can clearly see, is supposed to be more intimidating in the field, but like I said, I really love the way the face shape and the flare really works on the Bawse, and the same thing applies here for the EQT Enrage. I really like the face shape of it, how it's narrow, and it has a slight but subtle flare from in out as you get up the head, and that's obviously intentional because that's what you see in most offensive heads. The only thing that's a little bit interesting is they have this like that kind of curves for the face shape of the head, which is a little bit interesting. I probably would have preferred a little bit of a sharper design, but that's just aesthetically really. Other than that, it's just going to give you more space for catching and throwing, which really is an upside rather than a downside. And like I mentioned earlier with the triangular design for the sidewall struts, that triangular design is also going to help for maintaining stiffness in the head, so that's not going to warp. This one as well isn't going to be a face-off head, but it's going to be a really solid attackman's option. As also, since it is stiffer, it's going to be able to maintain its accuracy over time to make sure that all your passes are going to be going to the same place. The throat on the Enrage is pretty similar to the Bawse in that both the throats for the 2 Adidas heads that we've looked at so far have been pretty bulky. They've definitely added a lot of plastic down there to prevent any breakings from occurring, because you know a lot of companies have had problems where the throat is breaking. That's not going to happen with an Adidas head just because of how well built these throats are. So let's look at the Adidas EQT Enrage. So while this one has a gradual change from the flare of the head into the throat, the Bawse has a very extreme drop right into the throat. That's just something to know. It won't make a huge difference in terms of playing or feel or anything like that. The Enrage has a rather gradual drop into the throat, and then they have openings all around. Clearly they cut out weight. But one of the big things on both of the heads is that they have an extremely prevalent plastic piece right here with the engraved Adidas, as well as the version of the head it is. And you can see on the side, so they've cut out here as well as to create some extra weight. But the same theory applies in both heads. They've added plastic there because they do not want the head breaking like it does from other companies. So that's something that's really cool to see. A large manufacturer like Adidas focusing on the small details in their heads. That's really cool to see. This head has 17 sidewall holes on both sides. Once again, plenty of options for stringing. You can pretty much string any pocket you want in here. But like I said earlier, the way the struts are laid out and how they laid out the head, it really works best for that mid pocket that shifts a little bit higher in your passing and shooting. But it's going to sit here when you're one-handed cradling. And Adidas really did a good job of designing that. The last head we're going to be doing an overview for is the Adidas EQT Arrest. So I actually strung this up with some 12D Voomx. You guys already, if you don't know who Voomx is, they're one of our partners. And we're really happy to string up this piece of Voomx in the Adidas EQT Arrest. I'll link Voomx down below, their Instagram, YouTube. Make sure to check them out if you haven't already. That being said, let's look at the head. So the head, as you can see, It reminds you right away of an STX Shield. If you guys are goalies, you would know that this face shape is very similar to a Shield, only there's a couple of really big differences with this head that you won't see in a Shield. First of all, this head, unlike the other Adidas products, the offset goes backwards. So while the Bawse's offset came upwards, and the Enrage's offset was just kind of horizontal, this offset actually is going to go backwards. And that's most likely for goalies, and I'm sure I'll look at this when I'm testing outside, and I'm sure goalies could correct me on this, but I was actually talking to one of my teammates who was a goalie, and he was describing to me how the reason most likely they designed it like this is because it's easier to get down on low shots if you have it backwards more, because then you can just throw your stick into the ground and you're more likely that you're going to catch the ball. He explained it better to me than I'm explaining it to you right now. But he said from a goalie perspective, the offset of the head he actually really likes. The arrest has this honeycomb structure on the side of the head that it's pretty hard to miss. A lot of people have had a lot of different opinions on this. From what I've noticed, this head is definitely heavier than your average goalie head. At the same time though, your average goalie head, like the Eclipse, warps over time or breaks. So I don't really see weight as a huge problem. I've talked to a couple different goalies and have given them this to really look at and see what they thought about it. And they've all come back to me the same thing. They would rather have a head be stiff and heavier than warp and lighter, because they've all told me experiences of using heads that have warped and going for a save and your head actually bending back on you and the shot going in even if you get your stick on it. So they would rather use a heavier head and a stiffer head. So that's a plus to the Adidas manufacturing team, what they were looking out to do. That being said, it was obviously stiffness first, making sure the head maintained its durability over time. That being said, I feel like you could have cut out a lot of the plastic here. That's probably one of my largest complaints with the arrest. If you look on the sides, there's a lot of plastic here, where most other heads would have just cut this out. I don't think you should have cut all of it out, because then you would have had warping, but I feel like you probably could have slimmed it down. That being said, I'm sure the Adidas manufacturers know more than I do about what their manufacturing system was, but that's just probably something that I would work on. Other than that, it's got a very similar flair to the Enrage in the sense that it starts gradual, and then by the end you can see it kind of pushing from the inside out. That's also just to funnel the ball into the center of the pocket, which is the same thing the Enrage is doing, which is what a lot of heads do nowadays. One thing that struck me and a lot of the goalies that I sent this to was just how strong it was. But this head is extremely, extremely strong, and I don't think you're going to have a problem with it warping or anything like that over time. It's extremely strong. There is no warp for me pushing inwards. I can barely get it to move. It's just an extremely strong head overall, an extremely strong offering from Adidas. This head retails for $110, and overall I think is a pretty solid offering from Adidas. One other thing I think I should highlight is the top string. They're extremely small top string holes, but you could fit 2 to 4 strings in here nonetheless. They have 12 top string holes, so there's plenty of different options. You can come up with any combination you wanted. Another thing that's cool is they have plenty of sidewall holes, and all of them are carved out enough that you can fit multiple strings through. That's all for the overview of each head. I'm going to be testing these for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then when I'm all done with that, I'll come back and I'll start talking about what I think of the product.
Hope of the world is in our production. It's all left up to us to change its present generation. Hope of the world is in our production. It's all left up to us to change. Hope of the world is in our production. It's all left up to us to change its present generation. Hope of the world is our production. It's all left up to us to change. Yeah. Hope of the world is in our generation. It's all left up to us to change this present situation. I rule the world with love and get rid of all the hate. Our elders taught us one thing, but practice another. Just look what happened to the direction. It's all left up to us to change this presence. It's all left up to us to change the and the brother. The world is in our.
So guys, now let's talk about my final thoughts on the product. After testing these products for a couple weeks, I've been very impressed with the new offerings from Adidas. To start off with the Bawse. So this head did not fail to exceed my expectations. The offset that the head takes, dipping back and then pushing forward aggressively, really allows for you to get a lot more snap feel and like they advocate for a quicker release on your shots and as well as your passes. That's something that I was really impressed with. That being said, I would caution someone who gets this head, just make sure not to string a pocket with too much whip, because if you string a pocket with a lot of whip, plus the fact that this is such an aggressive offset, it will really alter your accuracy on shots. But if you just string a normal pocket mid-whip with this head, it will be a really nice result. In terms of stringability and everything else, this thing strung up like a breeze and I was really impressed with it. I'd recommend this head for definitely middies, especially if you're a D midi. I think this is a great option for you, but this is also an extremely good option for any shooting middies out there. But I was really impressed with the Bawse, and I know it's going to be a good option for anyone who decides to pick it up. That being said, one thing I would change is the price point. It's a little bit steep. It retails for $100, and most high-end heads go from $90 around is the average. So if they could lower that price just a little bit, I think they do a lot more sales, but that's just my opinion. So now let's talk about the Enrage. The Enrage is a really great option for any attackman out there who are looking for an elite offensive head. There's nothing on this head that like jumps out as being, you know, crazy innovative technology or something really special. It's just a really solid offering from Adidas. It's going to perform well. It's going to stay consistent. Once again, the price $110. It's a little bit steep. I would like to see them pull that down to around $90, $80. I think that would be a lot better for the Adidas line as a whole to really generate more sales. I would definitely give the Adidas Enrage the stamp of approval. Last but not least is the arrest. So obviously I'm not a goalie, so I had a couple of teammates who are goalies look at this head, and they were impressed in a lot of different areas. First of all, one thing they talked to me about was the way the head is designed, especially in the top. It's angled so that it angles in, so anytime a shot's going to hit these corners, naturally the ball is going to be angled into the pocket, which is really good, they said, for saves. So when they can't get, you know, their whole stick on it, but just can get enough to tip the ball in the corner, it's a lot more likely that the ball goes into their stick. So that's one thing they were really happy with. One thing they didn't love, they said the scoop wasn't really great for picking up ground balls, but I mean, scoops on goalie heads typically aren't amazing. And one last plus for Adidas, I know we talked about the weight, but they said that they didn't really notice anything too different in terms of weight. They said it was definitely heavier than what they were using, but nothing that like prohibited them from making saves during a practice or a game. I think the new line of Adidas products are really great, and they're good offerings from Adidas, and they're solid offerings in the market. That just being said, once again, I think the prices are just a little bit too high. But I think if those price points just went down $10, $15, I think it would make a big difference in terms of sales. But I want to thank Adidas for sending me the products. I had a great time checking them out. I hope this review is really informative for anyone out there who's looking at picking up some Adidas products in the future. If you have a question that I didn't cover in this review video, make sure to leave it down in the comments below. I try my best to get to every single question you guys offer. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.
It's all left up to us to change. Hope of the world is in our direction. It's all left up to us to change this present generation. Hope of the world is our direction. It's all left up to us to change. It's all left up to us to change this present situation.